friends. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Nicole Carter. I'm the Mindfulness Coordinator here for Berkshire Health Systems. And we are going through mindfulness, tools for mindful living. I'm so honored and excited to have Marcie Greenfield Simons, an interfaith chaplain at BMC with experience in hospice care and who trained at Bay State. Thank you so much for joining us, Marcie.
Thanks for inviting me, Nicole.
Absolutely. I'm so grateful to have this different voice when it comes to mindfulness and how faith shows up for people. So I'm really interested to hear your story and share your thoughts on that spiritual side. So I'd love to just describe for us, your spiritual journey over the course of your life.
So I'm glad you're using the word spiritual, because people tend to associate the chaplain with religion, and that can be a part of it, but spirituality is definitely broader. I like the definition of spirituality as that aspect of humanity that leads us to seek meaning and purpose in our lives. And we do that through connections within ourselves, with others, with nature, with something that we're passionate about, or with something sacred. So my own spiritual journey has definitely been circuitous. I was not raised with a lot of formal education. I was raised in a Jewish household and am still identifying as a Jewish woman. But somehow in my house, without a lot of discussion of God, I had this great faith in me. And it was that faith that really sustained me when I was 18 years old and my father died suddenly, unexpectedly at the age of 44. And I wasn't quite sure where that faith came from, but it really helped me get through an incredibly difficult time. And as the faith grew and I went off to college, I started to bring more kind of traditional Jewish practice and ritual into my own life. And so early on, meaning as a very young adult, I would say that my spiritual life was really defined by religious practice. But I again want to emphasize that in no way, shape, or means do I believe that that's what has to define spiritual life. And as a matter of fact, when I was in my 30s, I really hit a dry spell and I struggled a lot with theology, and I continued to practice my faith, but I wasn't so sure that I believed in a higher power of any kind. Kept a book on my night table that said 10 different ways of viewing God, kept thinking, maybe one of these is going to speak to me. As I was growing, getting older and maturing and became a mom, my eyes were opened up to lots of other ways that I could evolve spiritually. First of all, the miracle of childbirth, that is so powerful. The beauty of nature, music really spoke to me, and also human relationships. And so if people take anything at all away from today's conversation, I hope that in my sharing my experiences, coming from a chaplain, people will understand that spirituality is a lifelong journey. It is not something we achieve. We grow, we question, we are lucky when we have moments of solace, we question some more, we wonder. And really, to be spiritually grounded, it takes work. I eventually found my way back to faith in a higher power. But my theology today is probably different than what many people think a chaplain might believe or an ordained clergy person might believe. And by the way, that is not me. I'm trained in chaplaincy, but I'm not ordained. I believe today that God has many, many names, and I don't believe that God is necessarily all powerful. I believe that God is that force or that energy that leads us to do the next right thing, that moves us toward the next right choice that will help bring some goodness into the world. There's a name for this. It's called process theology. I see the transcendent in human kindness. You know, when I walk by a room and I see a nurse not just standing at her computer or looking at the vitals, but literally pulling up a chair to sit down next to a patient and engage in conversation, to me, that's holy. You know, that is really divine. And so I think it's from Les Mis where they say to love another person is to see the face of God. I really believe that that there is that divine all around us, and we see it in the way people, you know, show loving kindness to each other. So that's where I'm at today.
Oh, thank you for sharing that, Marcie. So many nuggets of wisdom and truth and vulnerability, and that, you know, those words of practice and, you know, inclusivity and this openness and willingness to know that things shift and change and evolve. So
Totally.
yeah, so much
Yeah.
appreciation for everything you just said. I'm still lamenting on it.
Okay, great.
And what is your experience with the grief and loss over the last 18 months in our healthcare community been like for you? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. So it has been a time of enormous grief and loss for all of us in so many ways. And I think it's important to understand that grief is not just something we feel when there has been a death, you know, a loss of independence. We have patients who lose a limb from an amputation or lose their eyesight. There have been so many people who have lost jobs, who have lost homes, who have lost access to their loved ones. All of this brings on grief. And it has been both heart-wrenching and a privilege to be walking with our community, our community in general, and specifically our hospital community during this very, very difficult time. In March 2020, when everything shut down, I said to my husband, we're going to start something new. We're going to start a gratitude practice. And I'd heard a lot about it, and I tried to be grateful for, you know, different things. But I said, when we go to bed at night, we're going to say good night, and then we're each going to say out loud to each other 3 things that we are grateful for. They can be big things, they can be little things. You know, a few weeks ago, one of the things we said when we had that torrential rain was, I'm so grateful there's no flooding in the basement. But a lot of times it's, I'm so grateful for the privilege of the work that I do. I'm so grateful for my kids and my grandkids. I'm grateful, you know, that our washing machine is working. This has really helped. We have done this every night for 18 months. I also, shortly after that, began a meditation practice. And I signed up for a 3-month free subscription to Calm, but I also use another free app, which is called Insight Timer. I had dabbled with meditation, but I had not done it regularly. And so when I signed up for these apps, I really did make it a regular practice. And that has helped me enormously. And I have recommended this to many people. I want to again say in full disclosure, I'm not where I want to be. I would like to say that I do this every single day, but like probably you and many of the rest of the people who may or may not listen to this, we're all works in progress, and we have an ideal, and it's hard to achieve that ideal. One of the reasons that I'm not there meditating every morning is because in February, about 6-7 months ago, I lost my own mother, not to COVID, but that was, you know, a huge loss for me. And one of the things that I have brought into my life as a way of processing my grief around the death of my own mother is a short morning prayer practice. In Judaism, we have a prayer called the Mourner's Kaddish, which is a memorial prayer that we say for about 11 months after we've lost someone we love. And I get up in the morning and I look at a beautiful photograph of my mother and recite a couple of prayers, including that. So, between exercise and meditation and a little morning practice and a work morning, something gives somewhere. But I still meditate a good couple of times a week. We are experiencing collective grief. And I think that the most important thing for everyone to understand is that there's no shortcut for it. We can try to block it, push it away, but it doesn't work. The feelings come out in some other way. The chaplains, we try to make ourselves very present for the staff as well as the patients and their families. And I'll just tell you a short vignette. I was walking a hall once. I think I was in the progressive care unit and bumped into a nurse who was standing at her cart charting. And I stopped and I said, "How are you?" And she said, "I'm okay, thanks. How are you?" And I looked at her and I said, "No, really, how are you?" And she just started to cry. And she, of course, apologized for crying. And I said, "Please don't apologize. That's what we need to do. We need to allow ourselves to grieve. We need to allow ourselves to feel our feelings." And not that long ago, I had a patient who was crying and he didn't apologize. He said, "I hope you understand my tears. I believe that tears are the way we wash our souls," which I thought was just lovely. Whether it's through crying or getting frustrated or angry, our world is so broken right now. So long as we find the right time and place, we have to honor what's inside of us. And then we try to bring in tools that can help support us as we travel this journey. Grief doesn't last forever. But and it is also circuitous, just like faith is circuitous and spirituality is circuitous. But it is really important for us to allow ourselves to have that human experience.
Yeah, thank you for sharing about your mom and your process. I really appreciate you saying that, grief is it's non-linear,
Right.
and it takes different shapes and forms. And we are, as a human race going through this collective grief process through so many different things.
Absolutely. Right.
And to hear you also bring it back to the mindfulness piece and the tools that you use with the apps. And that's something we talk about here. We share those same ones, Calm, Headspace, Insight Timer.
Right.
Yeah. So,
right.
To hear that, it's just really illuminating to know that there is this channel that we're all working through, and it's not just one quick fix. It is the exercise piece and the nutrition and being around positivity and having having that faith and having that connection with people. And and that brings me to my next and last question, which is, you talked about those tools. I'm curious, are there other tools that you use when it comes to your service within the hospital that you would recommend, that you would share to, the beginner or someone who's been, practicing their faith and spirituality?
Absolutely. I want to put prayer at the top of that list. And I want to emphasize that you don't have to believe in God or a higher power, God by any name, Muhammad, Jesus, Yehoshua. You can pray even without invoking the name of any higher power, because what prayer is it's putting out your hopes, your wishes, your dreams. And you know, as we talked about a minute ago, the world does feel sometimes so dark and so heavy and so broken. I try every evening as I sit down, a lot of people will pause and be grateful for the food in front of them. Before I even say I'm grateful for my food, I try to just close my eyes for a moment and think about all the healing our world needs. And I throw out my hopes that there will be healing, that there will be healing for those who are physically sick, that there will be healing for those who are struggling from poverty and, and homelessness, and that there will be healing in our broken political world. And I put out a prayer for all the people who are doing good. All the people, not only in the medical field, but yes, especially them, but also the people who work at every kind of a social service agency, who are devoting their lives to trying to bring a little light to someone else. And so I think because we can feel daunted by how broken everything is, even saying 2 sentences of prayer, recognizing that daily, can help us feel like we're at least in it with someone and we're taking some action. It may be just words, but it's still taking an action. So prayer is something. Bring music into your life. I think music can be very spiritual. I know next week's topic is going to be to get out in nature 100%. I think nature is so important for mindfulness. And I also, the last thing may come as a surprise, but I want to talk about stories. My 2 favorite things to listen to besides music are podcasts. One is StoryCorps and one is called The Moth Radio. And both of these are real people telling real stories about their lives. I also choose to read books of real stories about real people, because when we hear so many stories of incredible strength and resilience, it inspires me. It helps me remember that I'm not alone. Mm-hmm. It helps me remember that there are so many people who have overcome so many harder things. And it helps me remember, and I do believe this firmly, Nicole, that even in darkness, there is light. So yes, meditate, pray, listen to music, walk in nature, put yourself in access to stories, and remember that you're not alone. So those would be, just a short bullet list of things that people can do. If it's okay, what I'd like to do is just conclude by offering a blessing to you and to anybody who listens, which is that may you be blessed to find gratitude for things in your life and in our world. May you be blessed to know that you are very, very important to others and that you are a source of light. May you be protected with good health and with wholeness, and may you shine your light out into the world.
Thank you so much, Marcie.
You're so welcome.
Beautiful words. So many lovely thoughts and suggestions. And oh my goodness. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
You're so welcome.
Well, it's been an honor having you here today. I look forward to seeing you again. We love to work with you over here at Wellness. So I will see you soon. And thank you so much to all of our friends for tuning in.
All right. Thanks, Nicole.
Thank you.